Please welcome Coach Moton.
Good evening. Oh, y'all can't be asleep because it was a graduation until I took 5 steps and then y'all turned it into a club, so good evening. All right, good. Thank you so much for having me as your guest speaker today. I already know how I feel to be there. I already know what's going in y'all heads. So y'all really like, man, you got 10 minutes, my man, so hurry up so I can go and get across the stage. So I promise I'm not going to be too long. Thank you to everyone here. Thank you to Principal Goff and just everyone for allowing me the opportunity to come here and speak. I'll be completely honest with you. When they first called me and emailed me to come be your commencement speaker, I had some reservations about it. I really didn't want to do it, simply because I don't know if y'all been watching the news lately, but commencement speakers been having a little rough go at it. You know, y'all been booing them and walking out on them and standing up, turning your back. Let's get one thing straight right now since this ain't formal no more. If y'all get up and walk out, I'm walking out right behind you. You can believe that, so we're not going to play that type of game in here today. Not with these cameras in here, but thank you so much. All these wonderful people up here that supported you. You know, I heard when you walked in, I just heard the round of applause and the screaming. And everybody was screaming, that's my baby, yada, 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 yada. And I'm just shaking my head. I'm like, and y'all screaming back at him, which is cool, but I'm like, y'all falling for the okie doke. Y'all really falling for the okie doke. See, I can't repeat everything that's been said, so I'm just gonna come up here and be completely real with you. When they were screaming for you, probably like 40% of that scream was because they were happy you were graduating. About 40 of them. See, the other 60% of that is because they happy you a step away from getting out they home, out they pockets, so you can go out here and be on your own and stop begging. So I promise I try not to be too long. My name is LeVelle Moton, L-E-V-E-L-L-E-M-O-T-O-N. And from day one, it's always been a habit for me to say my name and spell my name and pronunciate my name because it's always been a difficult name. And my grandmother, she always told me, be proud of your name. And there's 2 things a man can always have, his word and his name, and you not to compromise either one. So it's amazing because your education is extremely important. But I have to be completely honest with you. Most of the things I'm going to say to you is just me regurgitating something that my grandmother told me, and God rest her soul. And she never had more than a 4th grade education. So I feel like I must share some of those wisdom and knowledge nuggets with you, is what I like to call them. And just be completely real with you. Because I'm going to be honest with you. Some of your teachers, and mine did the same thing, they kind of lied to you a little bit. All the stuff that you learned in school, you don't need to know all that. I graduated in 1992, all right? No one has ever asked me the square root of nothing. Nothing. In biology, I was so scared to dissect these animals. Like, I would take a 0 on that, but I haven't dissected anything yet. Unless you go to a barbecue, that's the only time you're going to end up dissecting something. And remember when your teacher told you that if you ever wanted to be president of the United States, you had to be really smart? Hey, it is what it is. This ain't a graduation no more. Y'all playing crunk music when I came in here, so we're gonna share this for like 10 minutes. On my way over, I really didn't know what I was going to talk about. I never have a speech. I just get up, I look at the audience, check the temperature of the crowd, and I kind of go from there a little bit. And I love doing commencement speeches because it gives me an opportunity to reflect when I was in school. And my daughter, she's 8. She asked, today was her last day of school, matter of fact, and she said, Daddy, when you was in school, what was your favorite grade? I said, oh, that's easy. Kindergarten. Kindergarten. See, my mom is this incredible woman, and she worked her fingers to the bone, man, and it's something that generated a fire in my belly because my mother cleaned houses for a living, and we were living in our housing projects. Every day I walked out of my home, it was a life or death decision to get back into my home. It was the middle of the crack epidemic. There was guns, violence everywhere surrounding me. So my mother was real strict. And I grew up in an era, and she used to do something and it irked me all the time. Anytime my friends knocked on the door, if my mother didn't know you, I couldn't go outside and play with you. I see some of y'all grew up in that era too. She would literally become an FBI agent whenever someone knocked on the door. Boy, who is you? What's your mama name? What's your sister name? Where she live? What's your brother name? Earl who? And it just kept going on and on. Now my grandmother, on the other hand, was a very spiritual woman. And I say my biggest accomplishment to this day was just going to kindergarten. I remember my grandmother actually prepping me the night before I went to kindergarten. She said, Puffy, like that's my nickname. She said, Puffy, here's what's gonna happen. When you go in school, you're gonna have to introduce yourself and so on and so forth, and you just relax and enjoy your day. I was like, I don't know, Grandma, I don't know about this. She said, nah, just take my word. I go into school. First day of school, my kindergarten teacher, Miss Elvis, I'll never forget her. She asked me what was my name, and I told her, Puffy. She's like, nah, what's your real name? And I said, my name is LeVelle Moton. L-E-V-E-L-L-E-M-O-T-O-N. So I'm sure y'all went through this. She lined everyone up, and I'll never forget this. She lined everyone up in the classroom, and she said, I want everybody to go down this list, and you say your name and say exactly what you want to be when you grow up. And it was coming towards me. And I heard people say, I want to be a policeman, you know, I want to be a fireman, I wanted to be a dentist. And when it got to me, I said, my name is LeVelle Moton, and I want to be a J.J. Evans from Good Times. And that's the same response I got in my class right there. Some of y'all might have been my classmates, right? So in case you don't know, J.J. Evans in this show, Good Times, y'all need to Netflix it or YouTube it or whatever. It was the greatest show on earth to me, right? And it was a family that was really similar to mine. And he was in the projects, and I loved the show so much, my mother bought me a Good Times outfit in a pajama set. And she bought it too big so I could grow into it. And it had dynamite on the chest. It had JJ's picture right here on the chest. And every year I used to grow, she would just take the scissors and cut the feet out of it. And after about 4 or 5 years, I had a Good Times onesie on. It was like snapped between the legs because I had grown so much. So she was like, you gotta let this go. So the entire class laughed at me that same day. And I went home, and my grandmother said, how was your day at school? And I was crying. I was going berserk. And I said, Grandma, I'm not going back. I was going to become the official first 5-year-old dropout in elementary history. I said, I'm not going back. And she said, well, why ain't you going back? You know what happened? And I said, well, they asked me what did I want to be when I grew up. And I told them, and everybody just laughed at me. She said, well, what did you say you wanted to be? I said, well, they were coming down, and somebody said they wanted to be a dentist, but I ain't want to be that because they don't even let you eat candy. I said, I don't want to be a fireman. We lived in the hood, and I didn't see no home that had enough value for me to want to risk my life to run into anyway. So I told them I wanted to be J.J. Evans, and she said, what was wrong with that? And I said, I don't know, Grandma, but everybody laughed at me, and I ain't going back. And the next thing she told me, I want to share this with y'all. She said, I don't ever want you to worry about that. She said, always understand this and don't you ever forget this. The 2 most important days of your life is the day that you were born and the day that you figure out why. That soothed my soul right there, and I went back to kindergarten, and the rest is history. The following year, the other year I really remember, is 1st grade. That was the year something tragic happened in my family. My father came into, we had these things in Boston called rent parties, right? So in case you don't know, the housing projects, in case someone had a problem paying their rent, everyone invited those people over to this person's house, and you had a rent party, and they treated it just like a club that y'all are so familiar with. And you paid to get into the apartment. But I hated rent parties because everyone brought their kids, and it's like 20 kids in my room. It's like a 5x5 room with 20 kids in it. And I'll never forget, my father came in, and he asked everybody, hey, I'm going to the store, what you want? And we were really placing orders. And I was like, look, some Doritos, some nachos, some now-laters, and candy, blah, 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 blah. And I eventually fell asleep. And I woke up the next morning, I went and I asked my mom, I said, where my daddy at? She looked me in my face and she said it just like this. He gone and he ain't coming back. I was like, what? She's like, he gone and he ain't coming back. You don't need to ask any more questions about it. For there, that's kind of stripped my soul, because I was 6, 7 years old in first grade. And when your father leave you, inside I'm thinking, if the man that created me don't love me enough to stay, I'll never make it in this world. So I developed a deep, dark insecurity. A couple of months later, my birthday and my mom's birthday is on the same day. I walk outside, and there's a brand new blue bicycle with a ribbon on it that says, Happy Birthday, Puffy. I knew it was from him, so I took the bike inside, and I kept it for the rest of my life. I'll come back to that. The last grade that I'm going to tell you about is 10th grade. In high school was a little difficult for me, all right, because you start feeling yourself, and you want a little attention, especially from the ladies. And I struggled in that department. See, I went to LeVelle High School. Had about 3,000 students. If you wanted a girl at LeVelle High School, you had to have a car, you had to have money, you had to be cute, and you had to be well dressed. Well, I was Oprah Winfrey and all that. I ain't have none of that, right? So I finally get to school my 10th grade year, and I see a girl come around the corner, and I start talking to her. And from there, we just connected. I thought she had a beautiful soul. She thought I had a beautiful soul. We dated for a year. Now, in high school, I had this thing called a lunch ticket. And what a lunch ticket meant was, for anyone that was poor, it symbolized when you went and got your lunch, you just handed the cashier your lunch ticket, because I didn't have any type of money to be paying. So, but it symbolized that you were poor. And back then, everyone teased you for that sole possession. Well, one day I'm sitting at the lunch table with her, and a group of seniors come in. And y'all seniors now, so you know how you can treat the smaller kids. And they just let loose on me. They were like, and she's sitting right here beside me. They was like, why are you dating this guy? He can't even buy you no extra pizza, no fries, no nothing, no yada, yada, yada. And I'm just sitting there and I'm taking all of it. And she's embarrassed for both of us. I love this girl more than anything because it was my first love. I even had her food for a while. My mother had this big record collection, and I wrote this girl a note every day. We went together for a complete year. I wrote her a letter every day. Y'all looking at me like I'm crazy. We ain't have phone. We ain't had no text and none of that stuff. So back then we wrote letters. You told them how you feel. You either talked to them or you wrote it down. You ain't tweeting and all that type stuff y'all do. I wrote this girl a letter every single day of my life. And she even thought I was deep, but what I was doing, I was going to my mama records, and back then they used to have the lyrics inside the records. I see some of y'all did that too. And I would just copy down the lyrics to Marvin Gaye or Lionel Richie, whoever was hot at that time, and I would just slide into it, and she thought I was deep. Well, after these guys picked on me that day at school, we're walking down the hallway, and she told me something. She was like, you gonna walk me home after school? I said, yeah, I'll do that. And I walked her home after school, and I did that every single day. I was nothing but a gentleman. And she's holding my hand, and I'll never forget it. She said, I need to talk to you. And I'm like, what's going on? She said, we're not going to be able to be together anymore. I'm like, what? And she dropped my hand and kept walking. I can't make this up. As soon as she walked away from me, thunder, rain, instantly. It was like a scene from Gone with the Wind, so y'all laugh. I'm glad y'all find this funny right here. I'm bearing my soul. Y'all in here. It's a joke to y'all. She's walking away, and now it's starting to rain on me, and I'm calling her name, and she's not turning around. And I keep calling her name and she's not turning around. And so now I gotta walk home 3 miles in the rain, soaking wet. And I get home and my mom was like, boy, what is wrong with you? And I was like, Nisha just broke up with me. She's like, for what? I was like, she ain't give me no kind of explanation. So I moved on in life because I wanted to tell you those things, and I'll come back to them. Because this introduction ain't tell you about the pain. It ain't tell you about the turbulent times. It ain't tell you about none of those things. Basketball is what I do. It's not who I am, and there's so much more to me than that, and I want to share these nuggets with you. So eventually I become a grown man. And the next thing I got to do is try to take a leap of faith. After I have my playing career, I'm offered a basketball job with my coach for $85,000 a year. This is 2002, something like that. Or I can go teach at this middle school at West Millbrook, teaching coach for 3 months and make $200 each month. Now, that equates to $600 for the year. So now I had a decision to make. Do I take this $600 or do I take this $85,000? All my friends was like, boy, you better go on and take that $85,000. Something in my heart and my gut was telling me I probably shouldn't do that. I probably should take this $600 and this would be my ultimate blessing. I ended up making the leap to take the $600 job for 3 months. I was single at the time. Unpopular decision, I just had to take the leap of faith. My team was pretty good. I had a kid that you probably know of by the name of John Wall. He made me look a lot better than I was. And then I went to high school, and I coached a couple of years in high school, and then North Carolina Central asked me to come back here. When I was assistant coach at North Carolina Central, our last year, we won 2 games and lost 29 games. It was the most miserable experience of my life. The job opens up to be the head coach. I want to go back to high school because I hate college. But once again, I got to take another leap of faith. There's no way in the world they're going to hire me. I don't have enough experience. So eventually, I just interviewed for the job, and I interviewed for the job just to get some kind of experience. And they had 100 applications in there. And they asked me, why do you feel like you're the man for this job? And I was like, I feel like I'm the man of this job. I said, I know it's people more qualified. I know it's people who resumes and portfolio look better, but I said, look, I just promise you this. If you hire me, in 5 years, we'll be the ACC school, we'll win a MEAC championship, and we'll go to a Final Four. That's all I had to offer. I couldn't sell them nothing else. The next day, I get a phone call from our chancellor saying, LeVelle, would you like to be the head coach of North Carolina Central University? This was March the 9th, 2009, I'm sorry. So I said, sure, I'll be the head coach of North Carolina Central University. So at my press conference, the first thing I say is, hello, I'm LeVelle Moton, L-E-V-E-L-L-E, M-O-T-O-N. I'm excited to be your head coach of this university, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I leave there, it's a bunch of media, all that. I come back to my office. I was hired on March the 9th. I almost was fired on March the 10th. And here's why. My athletic director called me because once it hit the papers, it was really an unpopular decision. See, it looks popular now, but trust me, it was an unpopular decision. Nobody wanted me to be the coach. I was the youngest coach in the country. I had 0 experience. None of that was happening for me. So she said, listen here. And it was an outrage amongst some of our alums. So some of our alums called her and said, let me tell you something. We don't know if you made the right decision and so on and so forth. And she started taking a lot of heat. So she told me, she said, listen, this guy on the phone, I want you to go to lunch with him tomorrow. And I said, why is that? She said, well, he don't really like the choice of you being coach, and I want you to go show him that you're more than qualified to be the head coach of North Carolina Central. I said, boss lady, I'm not doing that. She said, excuse me? And I almost got fired. I said, you take it however you want to. I said, I'm not doing that. I said, that man not liking me, that's his problem. If I go to lunch with him, I'll go to lunch with half of America this entire year. I said, if he don't want me to be the coach, that's his problem. But I said, here's the thing. If I go to lunch with him, he's still not going to like me. One thing I have learned in life, and one thing that my grandmother told me, is those people that make you explain, they'll never trust you anyway. And those people that trust you, they'll never ask you to explain anyway. So So I told her, I'm not going. And I'm proud to state, 8 years later, 3 championships later, we here. We here. I wanted to tell you those things, and I wanted to tell you that was little collaboration of those stories, because I want you to understand one thing, and it's almost the greatest trick that the devil ever pulled, and I tell my team this every graduation. It's all good right now, but make no mistake about it. This world only cares about one thing, and that's winners. That's it. Some of you may have a 2.3, some of you may have a 2.5. That's mediocre. The truth of the matter is, all of y'all are now young adults. And you will soon see this thing called adulthood is far overrated. Y'all in a rush to get there, but America has this thing called rent, mortgage, car notes, light bills, insurance. Y'all worried about how you gonna pay your little cell phone. Groceries, child support, alimony, taxes. It go on and on. It goes on and on and on and on. And the truth of the matter is, what's gonna happen, they're gonna call your name. And when they call your name, your family's gonna scream and say, "Oh, that's my baby." And you're gonna come up this side of the steps, and then you're gonna go down that side of the steps. And then that's when it really get real. Then you're gonna go home, and before you go home, you're gonna take some pictures. Y'all gonna take some pictures with each other and hit your pose and so on and so forth. You're gonna go home, and everybody in here, mama got a cake from Walmart waiting on you. Just waiting, just waiting. Just wait, you can believe that. And then when you get home, it's gonna be a lot of cards that you ain't gonna read anyway. You just gonna take the card out and shake it because you're trying to get that money. And you're gonna say thank you to whoever gave you something. And then you're gonna party, then you're gonna go to sleep. And then when you wake up tomorrow, it's real. And that's what I'm here to tell you today. It's real. But it's okay that it's gonna be real. See, I don't know what you're dreaming, but you gotta be a dreamer. And family, all this right here is cool. Friends, that's cool. Associates, that's cool. Your support system, that's cool. But let me tell you this, you'll never be successful unless you're your own biggest cheerleader. That's just how it's gonna have to be. So many people I grew up with, all they worried about was the outcome. That's all they ever worried about. And they had their eyes on the outcome, and they forgot about the process. And I want you to understand that it's the process that's gonna shape and mold you. It's gonna be some days that you go home crying, that mama can't help you, daddy can't get you out of, grandmama and them can't help you through this one, baby, all right? It's gonna be some of that, all right? But you're gonna have to fight, and you're gonna have to stay committed. And what is commitment? Staying true to what you said you were gonna do long after the mood in which you said it is gone. You're gonna have to stay committed to whatever you wanna do in your life and let your pain be your purpose. I'll end with this. Ladies, and I'm kind of practicing because I got an 8-year-old daughter up here, but I see so much of this, and I just wanna tell you this for 1 second. You're so beautiful. I want you to understand this. And you got to understand this, okay? You have all the power in this world. You are the queens of this earth, all right? That should never, ever be compromised. I know you got the social media, you got the Instagram, you got your Snap, and so on and so forth, and it's these Instagram models, they out here sitting on sinks, and they half naked, and they got their son and all this. You already know what it means. Let me tell you one thing. That'll get you some likes, that'll get you some retweets, and that'll get you some comments, and they'll get you some attention. It won't never get you a husband. We don't take that home to mama. Right? So all I want you to do is understand that And promise me that you'll love yourself, because if you don't love yourself, you'll spend the rest of your life chasing after people that don't love you neither. All right? And fellas, I gotta give it to you, and I wish someone told me this, man. I wish someone told me this. I understand what it's like in this world to, at your age especially, to be perceived as cool. I understand the chase of money, cars, and jewelry. And it's only human nature that we try to chase those plethora of things and chase those superficial things. And I'll be completely honest with you. I've been getting haircuts in the barbershop since I was 5 years old. One conversation, I've heard every conversation in the barbershop. One conversation I've never heard in my life in the barbershop was how cool it was to be married. I heard all the horror stories about it, but I never heard how cool it was to be married. And I'm just here to tell you, man, I've been poor far longer than I ever had a dime in the bank. Money don't make you happy. You think that right now because you ain't got it. But money don't make you happy. Happiness is not even a place. It's not a destination. It's a way of life. And don't get caught up in trying to be successful and keep up with the Joneses. You get caught up. My grandma used to always say, she'll look at somebody and be like, that boy ain't worth 2 cents. That boy ain't worth a quarter. And what that taught me was, she ain't think that person had no value. So I ain't never want to be successful because that's all subjective anyway. I just want it to be valuable. And once you're valuable, success tends to attach itself to that, right? So don't get caught up in chasing these worldly possessions. I'll be completely honest with you. I've been there, I've done that, I had it all, and I'm just as guilty of it, but I got true happiness now. And my true happiness is up there with that woman and those 2 little kids up there. Wave your hand, babe. That's happiness right there, bro. It's nothing like going in that door understanding it. So I leave you with this, that in 1st grade, in kindergarten, those are the lessons that I needed to learn. Everything that you need to know to go out here and be successful in this world, you learned that in kindergarten. That's it. My father, when he left that bike, my daughter came into my house 2 years ago. She was at her mom's house, and she wanted to ride a bike, and my mama wouldn't let her. And my daughter was literally snitching on my mom. She was like, Mima won't let me ride that bike, Dad. I was like, what bike? And my mom was like, go ahead and tell her. And I kept that bike for 37 years that my father left me. I never ever rode it, I never ever will. And I had to tell her, I said, baby, nobody with the last name of Moton will ever be able to ride that bike. I kept that bike as an artifact because your pain is gonna have to become your purpose around here, all right? That girl that left me in 10th grade, it's funny how things change. It's too late now, but trying to put it. Is my wife looking at me right now? How can I put that? I put it like this. That was one of the best things that happened to me. Because when that girl stopped loving me, that was the day I started loving myself. And y'all gonna think this corny, but I'm just built like this. I keep that lunch ticket in my pocket every single way I go because I say I'm never gonna feel that pain ever again in my life. And I'm so thankful for the ultimate lesson of my mom because it always ticked me off when she used to interview all my friends. But I appreciate it now and I get it because I'm a grown man. Your life is gonna depend on the people that you surround yourself with. If you're the smartest person in your crew, you need a new crew. If you got the most money in your crew, you need a new crew. Surround yourself with people that can help you grow. And finally, I'll say this, don't ever forget this, the 2 most important days of your life is the day that you were born and the day that you figure out why. I expect greatness out of you, go figure out why. My name is LeVelle Moton, LeVelle Moton.